Welcome to Brother Miller's Notes. I was talking to a friend several years ago, and she asked me what my thoughts were on 3rd Nephi chapter 22, which is the Savior's quoting Isaiah chapter 54. And in verse 1, it starts off by singing, "Sing, O Barren." This good, faithful woman, who's a single sister, felt that this may apply to her. "Sing, O barren, thou that didst not bear. Break forth into singing and cry aloud, thou that did not travail with child." But more than that, she was not only feeling barren, but maybe a little bit desolate, which is at the end of the verse. In this chapter, Isaiah also uses words that kind of describes feelings of being ashamed. He uses that word. He uses the word afflicted. The Savior said that this chapter would be fulfilled in our days. And there are times where we feel barren, and that could be no children. Desolate, no joy in life, ashamed. And shame's a difficult thing. It's a counterfeit from Satan that makes us, feel down, depressed, afflicted. It could be with parents' genetics, poverty, depression, anxiety, whatever it is. But the whole chapter is a context that the Savior's saying, I'm going to give you encouragement if you're feeling desolate, barren, ashamed, or afflicted in the last days. And this encouragement is that you should act in anticipation of receiving future promises. They will come. Start singing because you know God's promises will be fulfilled. And he uses a lovely imagery of a tent. And he uses 5 verbs to kind of describe this tent and applies it to Zion in the last days. The 5 verbs are enlarge, stretch forth, spare not, lengthen, and strengthen. When you have a tent like this, you want to make it bigger. In the days of Isaiah, you would take a little bit of cloth or skin, goat skin, whatever it would be, and you'd sew it into the edges of the tent, and you make it a little bit bigger to enlarge it. It requires that you have to stretch it a little bit, or it isn't stable in the wind or in the elements. You can't spare any efforts. If you're going to lengthen it, you have to strengthen the cords and the stakes that hold it down. To members, this term stake is a symbolic expression. Pictures in your mind a great tent held up by cords and extended by many stakes that are firmly secured in the ground. The prophets likened latter-day Zion to a great tent encompassing the earth. That tent was supported by cords fastened to stakes. Those stakes, of course, are various geographical organizations spread out all over the earth. Presently, Israel is being gathered to the various stakes of Zion. These 5 verbs encourage us to be optimistic, to not be short-sighted or pessimistic. Zion, or she, is not to hold back her imagination dreaming just how big the tent need be. As the size of the tent expands, there's a need for stronger cords and stakes to withstand the increased force that the wind's going to have on the larger tent. Zion is encouraged to strengthen her stakes and keep the tent of Zion from being damaged by any internal or external force. In the tent of Zion, there's hope for all. There's room for all. Even those who feel ashamed, confounded, shame, or reproach. And even though we may feel that we've been forsaken during a time of our life, God gives a promise. For a small moment have I forsaken thee, but I will, with great mercies will I gather thee. We will see great mercies in our lives, or as the Book of Mormon asked us to do in chapter 1 of 1 Nephi, to look for the tender mercies. Or as the bookend, Moroni chapter 10, he says there has been great mercies that we should remember. We will see great mercies from God. And with everlasting kindness, I will have, now this is a different translation which says compassion on you. The Book of Mormon in 3rd Nephi 22:1 says mercy. I'll have mercy, and I like that a little bit better. King James Version's also mercy. But that implies that it's the Savior. He is the one that can provide mercy because he is the Redeemer. You will know God's kindness. And it's not just that the kindness. Kindness will not depart from you. And I love the analogy that Isaiah makes. For the heavens shall depart. You can just picture. The mountain shall depart. And you can picture a mountain kind of going away. You may picture that. The hills will be all gone, be removed. but my kindness shall not depart from thee. Neither shall the covenant, and I love this next phrase, the covenant of my peace be removed. There is peace in making covenants with God. And as we make and keep our side of the covenants, we feel that peace in our lives, a taste of that peace, which is a harbinger of the peace that we'll receive as we're in the presence of God. And the promise that our children will be taught of the Lord, and great shall be the peace of thy children. One of God's encouragement is that our children will know great peace. That really is the heritage of the servants of the Lord. That's the last verse. It's the last phrase of this chapter. This is the heritage of those who are the servants who have made the covenants with the Lord. You will receive the future promises. In the tent of Zion, there's room for you, even when you're feeling ashamed, confounded, shame, or reproach. We will see God's tender mercies. We will know of his kindness. And our covenants with God will bring us peace. And our children will know great peace. And in righteousness, you are established. That's a promise in verse 14, that you'll be made firm, that you'll be made spiritually, I think intellectually, emotionally stable, or to be able to grow or multiply. And there's also a promise that, behold, I, thou says the Lord, have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire. Now the Savior had quoted this verse of the Nephites in the context of the fulfillment in the last days. And Gerald Lund wrote, Joseph was surely the smith who forged the instrument by which the Lord's people continue to prepare individually and collectively for the Savior's return. And that instrument is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And there is no weapon that is formed against these that shall prosper. That promise has been repeated in our dispensation. Joseph Smith wrote that the standard of truth has been erected. No unhallowed hand can stop the work from progressing. Persecutions may rage. Bombs may combine. Armies may assemble. Calumny may defame. But the truth of God will go forth boldly, nobly, and independent, till it has penetrated every continent, visited every clime, swept every country, and sounded in every ear, till the purposes of God shall be accomplished, and the great Jehovah shall say, the work is done. That is the heritage of the servants of God. There is hope, and God has provided for the children of Zion a covenant, a tent of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, for shelter against the storm, for refuge in our time of need. Thanks for spending a little bit of time with me today. I hope you have a great day.